Hello friends, I'm Deepa. I'm founder of Poorna Wellbeing and I'm very happy to come live on my Poorna Wellbeing Instagram page to share about boundaries matter, you matter. So this is the first time I'm coming live on Instagram, and just to share with you a little bit about Poorna Wellbeing Chetanaa. Our attempt is to spread well-being consciousness. So we pick a topic that matters to you and we explore that in the Chetanaa. And once in 15 days we come live with a new topic. So this week the topic is on boundaries. So today we will explore why boundaries matter, why do we really need to pay attention to it. And to share that I have struggled with boundaries for a very, very long time, and for many years, I have been in multiple toxic relationships, pleasing others, saying yes to everybody, finding it difficult. I've always over-delivered and wanting to overperform all the time, not really knowing my limits. And I can go on and on about many, many boundaries that I have broken, in fact. And doing that, what I realized is how exhausted I was all the time, because I could never set my limits. I would go to the edge of my energy and I would break down. So either there could be an illness or I would quit that particular thing and then realize that, oh my God, it was too much for me to handle. And boundaries is a very important aspect of power. My own personal power depends on how I can set my boundaries. If I drain my power, then I'm not able to be in that energy with which I can meet my life's purpose. So it's very, very important for us to see, where am I draining my power? And I realized that I was draining my power because I was not able to set boundaries, which is why this topic, boundaries matter, I matter. Boundaries matter, you matter. So many of us, I hold space for many in the coaching, in my coaching sessions. And 9 out of 10 people I meet struggle with setting boundaries. In fact, they don't even know that this is their struggle. There are a lot of indications of this struggle, but they don't know if I'm able to set boundaries, then this problem will be solved. So many of us are not able to assert. Many of us do not know where our boundaries start and where where our boundaries end and where others start. It's very, very, very interesting, these days, especially in the post-corona days, or maybe during the corona days, when people are forced to sit at home and we don't go out so much. There is a boundary that has been placed by the environment on us. And you see how many of us feel isolated, how many of us feel violated being at home, because somehow we have never reflected on our boundaries. So some things are done by default, and some things are you have to pay attention to. The good news is that boundaries can be learned. How to set boundaries can really be learned, and that's how I learned. And in fact, in the last 1 year, I have done a lot of work on myself to be able to set clear boundaries, first with myself and then clear boundaries with the other. And that's when now I feel I have the power. I don't feel anymore like a doormat. I don't need to play the victim. I don't need to say that person did this to me, because I can cause it and I have the choice to impact my life. That's what happens when you have boundaries. So what are boundaries? Anything which has a limit. Now I just have this phone next to me. So what covers is the boundary. The outer is the boundary, and all the mechanism of this phone is inside. So the outer cover provides the boundary for this phone, and then when it comes to you, it's a phone because it's in this shape and it has got a boundary. Else it will be all wires hanging all over and a chipboard and all of that. So boundaries are limits. It's not a threat to the phone. Boundaries are not a threat. It defines the limit. They teach us what is us and what is not. Let us go back to childhood. when we were a child, when we were just born, our parents held us. My parents held me. And when they held me and when they massaged me as a child, the child comes to know that this is my skin, this is my boundary. Yeah. And more the child is held and massaged, the child becomes aware of the skin as the boundary of my skin is my boundary. Actually, this is where I end, and if there is another person next to me, then that person starts there. So if that person comes too close to me, then I know that that person is not me and I can stop. So boundary really creates a safe space for me, so that I am not an extension of the person, or the person is not an extension of me. I am not merged with the person. That person is separate and I am separate. So they are literally firm lines, and these lines are determined by you. Our parents teach us. So what we see in our childhood, if we have not had role models who had displayed boundaries, unfortunately, we have not learned. So if our parents didn't display boundaries, or if our parents didn't display boundaries with their parents, and we've been in a joint family, we have seen boundaries not existing. That's what we pick up. So we learn boundaries by observing. Because 0 to 7 years of age, a child imitates. They see it and then they do it. If they've not seen it, there is very bleak possibility that the person can do it. At 3 years of age, typically the child starts saying no. They say, I want to wear a pink dress, or I don't like this particular trouser. My son said it. Now, what is he doing? He's trying to tell us, he's asserting his choice. He's trying to tell us that this is what I like. Now, when parents say I have heard parents, and that when with my first child, I've also said that my child is disobeying me, or I've heard parents saying he's become too adamant. But no, he's trying to assert his choice, and he's trying to say no because he wants to know what is yes and what is no. He's trying to figure it out. Grown up more, now the child comes to his teens. So my son tells me, you're not cool. He calls me Amma. Amma, you're not cool. He says, I want to see English movies, and honestly, I don't like it. What is he saying? He tells me, very interesting thing he told me a few days back. He told me that I eat this much only. I don't fill my stomach fully. I eat 3/4, and I leave some space so that I don't fill my stomach. But if there is something really good, then I occupy that 1/4 space that I normally leave. So the next day, I do not want my breakfast at 8 o'clock. I will have it at 11 o'clock. Now, as a mother, I may feel, oh, my son is not eating, and I try to force. So we have not left him a choice to assert his boundaries and stay with the boundaries. So this is how the child and the teen misses an opportunity to learn a lesson on the fact that I can set a boundary, I can assert a boundary and be okay with it. Now, if let's say the parent says, no, how can you make a choice? You have to eat at 8, you have to do this, you have to do it. Which means, what is the message I'm giving the child? You don't have a choice. And the child learns this helpless way of existence and becomes an adult and exactly lives like that. Now, this is not gender specific. This is the general case of development. So you see, boundaries really form right from our childhood, brick by brick by brick. Yeah. So we allow, or our children learn it, and that's how they grow up. And they grow up saying, I don't think I have a choice. I can't make a choice. That's how they learned to be helpless. And this becomes the identity. Yeah? So I have realized that boundaries and our self-identity are extremely closely connected. And if we just know how to set boundaries, our sense of self, our identity can really, really become strong. And it's magical. when we learn to set boundaries. It's really magical. What is how is identity and boundaries related? Okay, so let me bring the concept of different kinds of boundaries. Okay, so somebody with a strong boundary, a strong boundary is where it's like if I were to say it's flexible. I am in the inner. I clearly know who I am and what I want, what is my need. But when somebody knocks at my door, I have this small opening where I just open and let people in. They come in, I close the door again. And when they're ready to go out, I let them out. And then I close again. And when then somebody comes in, wants to come in, and my need says, or my inner says, no, I don't want this person in, I will not open the door. You know? So literally the choice is left to the person. The person is flexible enough to decide whom to let, when to let, how much to let. To some people they may be completely open. To some people only this much. And how much they open and when they open is left to the person who is asserting or setting the boundary. Yeah. So this is a flexible boundary. Now let's look at somebody a person who is flexible, who has flexible boundaries. It's not flexible as in gullible. It's flexible enough to decide I can open and close at my will. Such a person I would call someone with very strong identity. I know who I am. I can make a choice of whom to enter and whom not. Now let's look at another kind of boundary. Yeah, and I would call for a long period of my time I was like this, and and I don't know what I want. So if somebody knocks at my door, I'm never closing the door. If somebody knocks, or maybe doesn't even knock, they just enter, and they come into my inner space, and I would be smiling. I may or may not like it, but I'll not say anything, and I'll allow them to enter. In fact, there's no question of even asking. Yeah. Now, why would I do this? Because I'm scared. If I tell them I don't like you, then what if I get rejected? Or I don't have the courage to even say that I don't want you in. Now, such a person, you can imagine, has no identity at all. They don't know who they are. Yeah, and for a long period of time, I was like this. Where struggling to know who I am and what's really my identity. I didn't know it. Now let's look at another person. Yeah, the third type of boundary, which is rigid. Now in a rigid boundary, what happens is, the person says, I'm good with myself. I really don't want anyone more. But this I don't want anyone more is not coming from an inner energetic space of I feel full. It's coming from the space of I don't want to be hurt again. So even if a good acquaintance comes in or if a good prospect comes in, the person will not open the gate at all. So the people keep knocking, this person will not open. Now what happens is, then people will stop knocking because anyways they'll be turned down. So this person stays in the inner world and nothing can enter. And typically they feel then alone, they feel lonely because he's very busy protecting himself from hurt. That could possibly occur because it might have happened in the past and he's not being able to let go of that memory or the impact of that on him. So rigid boundary, loose boundary and flexible. So rigid is I don't enter, loose boundaries I don't stop anyone, and flexible is I close when I need, I open when I need, and I decide when I needed what I needed. So the other two, the loose and the rigid boundaries are people whose sense of identity is compromised, or they do not really know who they are. They do not know how to take charge of themselves. But somebody with a flexible boundary is quite self-assured. The sense of identity is very strong and quite self-assured. And therefore the connection, therefore if you really have to work on the boundary, which I'll talk about a little later, if you have to really work on the boundary, we need to start with self. We cannot go out until we set our home in order, until we know. I can't go out shopping for Diwali until I know what in my house is missing, what do I need to shop for Diwali, and therefore then I'll decide which store to go, what to choose, which brand to shop for, etc. If I don't know what I need and what I have already, what is the point meandering outside? I'll lose my energy, I'll waste my time, and I'll not come back even satisfied. Even if I buy something, I'll not be satisfied. Isn't it? Yeah. So, what are the kinds of boundaries that we encounter in daily life? There are many kinds of boundaries. One boundary is of material things. Have you seen a child, maybe 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, maybe even older? Let's say their cousins come home and they ask for this toy because I like the toy, and the child says, no, I won't give it to you, it's my toy. He's saying that, sorry, the boundary is closed, it's my toy, I will not share with you. So that's a material boundary with a product, with something physical, material. Then you have the physical boundary. And I heard this term, somebody using it, they call it a bubble space. What is my boundary with myself? Now, what is a physical boundary? What is my personal bubble space? What is my privacy? What's me to me? And then comes the other. And whether it can be expressed as a handshake or in terms of touch, in terms of a hug. How do you meet the other? Do you handshake? Do you just greet with your face, or do you go give a hug? What's the room? What room you have with the other? And I have an example here. My son is 15 and a half, and he told me that, Amma, I think I have a younger son also. I think now the younger one can sleep in another room because I think I love being on my bed. So he's actually saying that I need my bed. I need my safe space. And I'm aware what he's asking for. So we've made some arrangement where at night he likes to sleep alone at night. So we've made some arrangement where hi Himali. We made some arrangement where he can sleep alone at night, and he somehow feels like a king when he's sleeping alone on his bed. For him, that physical space is important. So that's a physical boundary. The third type of boundary is a mental boundary. Now, mental boundary typically applies to your thoughts, your opinions. How do you speak with yourself? In this moment, I'm not under any pressure. Then can I make a choice? Am I easily suggestible? Am I gullible? Do I know what I want? Do I know my opinion? Can I assert my opinion? So everything that happens in the mental space, your thoughts, your values, your opinions, your ground at a thought level is basically boundaries. Now typically what happens is if let's say you're very suggestible, or somebody says something and you agree to that, that means your boundary with respect to your mental boundaries are weak. Yeah? Or even emotional boundaries. So we looked at physical boundaries, we looked at material boundaries, we looked at mental boundaries. There are emotional boundaries, and emotional boundaries typically it's very hard, because what happens is here you can't separate between your emotion and others' emotions. You feel sad when the other person feels sad. There is no literal separation between you and the other. It's almost like for example, I and my husband, I and my partner, or I and my child are merged, are fused. So if he feels bad, I feel bad. Now, in this case, what happens is, if let's say my partner comments, today my dress is not good, I can take it very personally, and then I completely lose myself. That's a boundary violation within myself. Yeah. Hi, Janisha. And the other type, which is normally spoken about, is sexual boundary. And sexual boundary is your comfort level with sexual touch. Where, when, with whom. So, and sexual boundary, physical boundary, material boundaries are seen. But mental boundaries and emotional boundaries are the biggest thing which are not seen. And it's really so hard to know that in your inside you don't have an opinion. It's so hard to feel that, if you don't even realize that my joy is dependent on my child's joy, or my happiness, the key to my happiness is in somebody else's pocket. Or if I, let's say, perform, and if my colleagues tell me, if I'm doing a dance performance and my colleagues tell me, I don't think it was good today, I just go down. And sometimes I've seen people saying, I'm not going to dance ever again, because I don't know what's my evaluation of how I dance, and the others' suggestions or opinions matter so much. So mental and emotional boundaries are the biggest culprits, and again I reiterate that to take charge of this, I think the most important thing is to know yourself. Know thyself, they say. Know yourself. And to know yourself, I'm bringing in one more concept called inner boundaries or internal boundaries. I remember a time last year when my coach asked me, can you articulate your boundaries with yourself? And when she asked me, I said, what do you mean by that? So I couldn't even fathom that the fact that there can be my boundaries with myself. I always thought boundaries are with the other. That's where, friends, we're missing out. Because really speaking, the first step is to regulate or define my relationship with myself. And typically it feels like, what's my discipline with myself? If I say that I'm going to wake up at 5:45 and do this routine, am I really sticking to my own boundary? And many of us struggle with rhythms. I have struggled all my life. I mean, not anymore, but many of us struggle with rhythms. And when, waking up at a particular time, doing a particular thing. And, these boundaries give us safety, give us security, and they make us trust our word, trust ourselves. They give this reassurance to ourselves that I can trust myself. If I say I will journal today and sleep, I will journal and sleep. Sometimes people live up to the boundary set with others, but not boundaries set to ourselves. And honestly, an outside-in approach to boundaries does not work. It has to be an inside-out approach. When you trust yourself that you can set boundaries with yourself, then you say, I can do this with others also. I now know it. I know how it can happen. Hi, Nurain. So, I would like to bring an example here. I was in a relationship with a friend, who sucked my energy, but I actually could not imagine my life without that person. In fact, I would say that my existence depended on his presence in my life. Yeah. Now, what happened is my inner boundaries were loose, and with him playing that role in my life, I lived a merged existence. My joy depended on his presence. If he says, Deepa, you did a fantastic job in this particular workshop, I would feel elated. But if he says, Aaj maza nahi aaya, you didn't do well, I would say, oh my God, I don't think I can be a great facilitator at all. So everything depended on how he viewed me as a professional, as a person, and everything. Where was I? Zero. My mental boundaries and my emotional boundaries were completely broken down. My sense of self was very weak. Yeah, and in my self journey, I realized then, along the journey, I realized that my joy can't be in others' pockets. So I had to take charge. And honestly, when our joy depends on others' joy, or when our existence depends on others' comments, we do not exist. The I is absent. The sense of identity isn't there. So what did I do? The step I took, I realized first. So it was an inside out approach. I realized that if I could I love life. I love to live life to my fullest. I have dreams about my life, both personally and professionally. If I have to manifest those dreams, my sense of self has to be stronger. And what I did was, in this case, in this relationship, I completely cut off. Okay, not completely, but I reduced it to an extent of 5%. Was it hard? Extremely hard, because I didn't have anybody to give me appreciation or feedback. But I thought that in my self journey, I needed to do it. Of course, I was in a coaching journey with my coach, and I had the safety net, and I could take this decision. I wanted to find my ground. I wanted to find out who am I without X, Y, or Z. And today, here I am, and I would say my boundaries are pretty flexible. And this is this definition of flexible, where I know whom to allow, when to allow, and when not. And it gives me the power now. Now the power is within myself. My identity is very clear. Ground is very clear. My action does not depend on others doing or non-doing. I am only responsible. So friends, if we have lived codependent, if we have lived fearful, if we have lived not confident, if we have lived under the guidance of somebody else or depending on somebody else, without me taking a stance for myself, it's time to wake up. And if you're listening to this video, I do not think we have any choice but to take the power in our hands. Typically like this king has a scepter in his hand and feels extremely powerful and feels upright. That's the stance I wish for myself, and I wish for each one of you. And this scepter and this stance comes when we feel the power within. For some of us, it can be a very new experience. It was for me at one point in time. It wasn't easy. सिर्फ scepter रहने से कुछ नहीं होगा. We have to know how to handle it. So, but when you keep the stance and you feel yourself upright, then you start feeling, oh, this looks magical. It looks kingly. How can I manifest it? And that's when you say, how can I? It's the first step of setting an intention. And you know why I say this? Because I've seen that each one of us are powerful beyond measure. And only I can see my power. Only you can see your power. If Himali, Janisha, Nurain, you're watching, yeah, only you, Nurain's power, only Nurain can see. I cannot see. I have a sense. I cannot see it fully. My power only I can see. Janisha's power only Janisha can see. So if only you can see, who else can come to your power and take the scepter? Because my well-being springs from within myself. I am an adult, and if I act like a child, where I act helpless, who can help me but myself? Isn't it? So if I feel this power, that I'm powerful beyond measure. In fact, I have a writing here which says that you are the most amazing being. You are infinite, endless and pure, full of light and love. I put this up about a year back, and every day I used to see this. Until today, I started believing in it. When I put this up, I had not believed. But I read it in a book, called Ashtavakra Gita. And I love this sentence because I could feel it. There was a resonance. So this is how we are. And the first step, to adulting or growing up is to set healthy boundaries. What does it mean? Is about saying, I am important. I am valuable to myself. Forget anybody else saying. I say this to myself. I'm important and I'm valuable to myself. I know and value my personal boundaries and will not compromise it for anything. I won't take shit from anybody. Nahi chalega. When you are a child, you say kuch bhi chalega, or when you're not in power, chalta hai, adjust kar lenge. But now when I feel I'm powerful beyond measure, like you adjust kar. Nahi chalega. A no is a no, and I really mean it from the energetic sense. Not saying the no for just saying, but no is a no, and I really mean it from the inner energy space, because I know who I am, what I want, and I have the courage to clearly say that to others. I'm not bothered what others think about me or how they define my self-worth, because I know my self-worth, I know my ground. And I'm very, very peaceful being me, because I'm so beautiful. And now when I'm saying it, I believe it. It's really beautiful space to feel it. And I'm very sure each one of you have felt this glimpse of this at some point of time in your life. So we have to just connect to this stream which says, I'm powerful beyond measure, I'm so beautiful, I'm gorgeous, I just love myself beautifully, and I'm just so I'm an amazing being. That's all I can say. Now these statements can come from this stance, that having this scepter in your hand and feeling this majestic power. And the good news, as I told you before, is we can learn it. So how can we do it? There are lots of techniques to do it. I'm just going to give you a direction, because on the 21st of November, I will be facilitating the circle on this topic. And that's like a workshop where we will learn how to set boundaries and how to implement it in our life. You can sign up for that later. But let's look at the broad direction on what we can do. Because I said the process is inside out, we will start inside. So the first step is to reflect on your current state. And there are a lot of statements, or a lot of feelings. For example, do I feel exhausted mentally, thinking too much? I just can't stop it. Do I feel taken for granted, like a doormat? I want to say something, but nobody understands me. I keep saying that nobody understands me. Or I feel too overwhelmed in life. Or I lose my presence, Some of the elements of losing presence is, we want to put sugar but salt dal diya. Yeah, we're walking and we bump against something. Or people are speaking, but I'm in my own world and thoughts. We are not in the present moment because we're overwhelmed and we are overthinking. Do I prioritize others' needs over mine? Yeah? I want to have a sip of, a chai. I want to have chai right now, but my son is saying, Mama, can you make something for me? So I say, okay, chai baad mein pee lenge, but let me attend to his needs. Or do we say that, no, I want to sip this chai, I'll do that first and then go to his needs. So do I prioritize others' needs? Am I scared of picking up, conflicts or disharmony? I don't want to upset things. So chala lenge. So it's okay, I'll adjust. Do I feel angry or shout at my kids? And sometimes it's disproportionate. And after shouting, do I feel guilty about it? This is another, state where boundaries are collapsed, especially within boundaries with self. Do I feel helpless in many, many situations? And a lot of times I used to shout at my children because in this moment, I don't know how to handle it. So there would be situations where I shout and I cry because I'm just so helpless. And sometimes I would feel like there is no difference between my children and me. I'm like the third child. So, but reflecting on the current state is the first step. It used to upset me. I know so many times with my therapist and my coach also I have taken up. Why do I behave like this Bhadrakali, shouting and yelling at them, and I cry later on? It sounds so stupid. But it wasn't stupid. It was my real state. Once I articulated my state, because these are some of the indicators. The inner state is, I feel something, but I'm unable to speak my feeling. I hate being a victim, but I'm playing a victim. I love to be in a sense of life and fullness and joy, but I'm not able to. I'm not feeling the joy in the moment. Now, these are some things that we need to recognize as their current state. And the next step is the desired state. What do I need? Before going to any session, I would make my notes. Today, what do I want to explore? I am not okay with my current state of existence. I want to take charge. So, clearly articulating, what do I need? What life do I want to live? What's my highest desire for myself? What do I really want? So I'm saying, I'm not happy the way I am, but I'm not brooding. I'm not saying, why me? I'm saying that I want to take charge. So the underlying energy behind this is, I'm articulating my desired state because I want to take charge. I don't want to be here. The next stage, which is very, very important, is to start inside. Is to start taking actions inside. And instead of setting boundaries with the other, ask yourself, first of all, if you have never taken help to set boundaries, I would suggest, please take help. Reach out to a coach and walk this journey with them. That's what I have found useful, because I feel that they are there like a safety net. You can try things, you can fall back, and they are there to hold you. Until you say, I can hold my spine. I am there. I have my back. So take help. Take real help in articulating who am I, what do I need. And the next step, to start within is be authentic. What do you really need? Who are you in your inside? And really speaking, know what you want. Are you okay being a victim? Because there's a payoff being a victim. There's a payoff for being helpless. You don't have to take responsibility. So it's okay if you want to live like that. But if you want another life, then the same actions will not work. You have to take some other actions to change your existence. That is why the first two steps are very important. Where are you currently, and what is your desired state? And then if you have to move to the desired state, obviously the same things will not work, so you have to take actions. Start simple. The first thing I would say is to set your foundation. Foundation is, what is my boundary with myself? What are my routines? What am I telling myself every day I will do, and where am I with them? Am I defaulting, or am I sticking to it? The joy, I think from the month of April, this year, from the month of April till today, suddenly there has been a change, and the way my routines are, I think I found more time, I found deeper self-work, just because I have set my routine and I am not compromising on it. And I adjust my routine based on how the week is. So if this week I was busy with one particular course I'm doing, I adjust my routine so that I'm still sticking to my routine. And this gives this power that I experience, when I am sticking to routine, is brilliant. I feel like I've conquered the world, because I have conquered myself. My own inner, all the self-talk I have conquered, and it's beautiful. This is simple. Because here, the resistance is from within. And if you have a coach, then the coach is mirroring the resistance, and then you can take charge. It's difficult first to go outside, because you're going to meet bigger resistance and you're going to go back to your shell. If you're not prepared and you go to the battlefield, and then you're going to be really battered very hard, then you can't get up. So first is to set yourself right, your boundary with yourself. Listening to my feelings, checking in when something I'm doing. So for example, I'll give you an example. I just went on a vacation to Chikmagalur. Beautiful. With my family, 4 of us. Now, that was also the time when my eurythmy was starting. Eurythmy is a course I'm doing. It was starting. I wanted to go for the outing, because my children had a vacation only this week. Eurythmy was in the same week. Now, I had a choice. When I checked in, first thing I checked in is, what do I want? And the inner feeling was, I want both. I want this and I want that. So then I asked myself, if that's my current state, what actions do I want to take? what boundaries do I want to set with myself? The first boundary I set is that I want to go, so I'm going to authentically talk to my family and say that my course is between 1:30 and 3. That time I will not come out roaming. So if you have to go at that time, you can go without me. I'm happy. And I also checked in and I said, I'm not guilty that I'm not going with them, because eurythmy is important for me. Before that and after that, I will enjoy. During that time, I will give my time to eurythmy. And we went, that's what happened. Everybody adjusted, and I clearly communicated it with the other. But before communicating with the others, I communicated this with myself, that it's okay to enjoy and also do your course, because this course is very important to me. So I listened to my feelings, and then I communicated with the other, and then it was a beautiful trip, and few of the pictures I posted on Facebook also, I really enjoyed, because my ground was clear, my boundaries with myself was clear, I took my time for myself, and I took my time with the other. Because in a trip, normally earlier I would say that in a trip I need to be with the other all the time. But I've changed that, because actually that's not how I want. I'm a free bird. I can make choices how much I want to be with my family and how much I want to be with myself. And that's what I did. So it all starts within. It all starts with self. So that's the same message I want to give. If you have to start setting boundaries, or if you want to tighten the process of setting boundaries, look within. Setting boundaries with the other is detailed. There's a way to communicate, not to over communicate, not to apologetically communicate, and everything is about the energy with which we are speaking. If you are strong, if you are clear, and if it's coming from a genuine space and non-manipulative space, the other will understand. If they don't understand, they're not meant to be with you. It's okay. It's just okay. So friends, I've come to the end, and I'm just thinking, how do I articulate this as an end? And I'm not okay with it. So I set boundaries because I matter to myself the most. It is told to us that thinking of self is being selfish, but I think it's okay, because if I am not full, I cannot make the people around me full. If I'm not happy, I cannot make them happy. And not that I need to keep them happy, but we need a joyous environment, and for that I need to be happy, I need to be full. And it's never ever late to start. You can always start right now. I started late, but it's easy if the first step of knowing what you want, where are you right now, and where you want to go, and then taking actions towards it. These are the 3 simple steps, and start with self. And then joy is boundless. We feel our power, we feel the scepter like a king, and we feel powerful, and we don't erode our power. So thank you. We'll be, stay tuned. We will be announcing about the Samvada next weekend, and on the 21st of November we will be announcing the workshop, our 2-hour workshop on boundaries. Stay tuned and stay connected, and thank you for being there.